Hey all, welcome to my video recap of Tuesday's Zwift Racing League on the Chasing the Sun course. Well, at first I wasn't going to participate because I had a lot of training load the days before and the legs weren't really fresh. But because it's a team event and I couldn't let the team down, I did race last Tuesday. So here's how it went. So as always, the start was like the Fast and the Furious. I also immediately noticed why I was normally not going to race because my legs did feel tired at first. But knowing my own body, I knew that if I kept myself calm in the early stages of the race, without any big water spikes, the second part would be much better for me. So in the briefing we had before the race, I did inform the guys that I would skip the first two sprints because I needed the time to get into the rhythm of the race. I said them that the KOM would be like my first goal of the race, as I also knew myself that with a good ascent there, I would gather the points uphill, but also in the sprint afterwards and at the finish line. So, yeah, skipping the two first sprints was a very good idea. So we arrived at the first sprint after only like 1 minute into the race. I knew that even when you don't really sprint for the points, you did have to maintain a higher pace yourself for not being dropped afterwards. But that was like easier said than done, as I was totally at the back of the bunch, as you will notice here. So I did struggle a bit to get back on top of the group, but I managed. So the first hurdle was already taken, one more to come. So after the sprint, I lost a few meters on the pack. So I did need to continue at a higher pace, but I knew also here in the left turn that there was a small incline and the pace would drop in the pack. So I had to hold on for about another 15 to 20 seconds here, and then the pace would drop and I had time to recover. So the first hurdle was already taken, like I said, onto the second sprint. The railway sprint was the second one of the day. It's a pretty long one, but I already felt a bit better. So I could stay more close in the group during the actual sprint and save some energy. I also knew that straight after there would be the rooftop climb. So I saw some chances there. When we arrived at the rooftops, I saw that the group was stretched a lot, so I decided to hold the pace pretty high because many of the riders were probably still suffering from the two sprints we had, and a fast climb will certainly have some casualties. So I kept going until like the first meters of the downhill, and there I backed off again and went into recovery modus myself. I did knew, in case you are wondering, that there were no points on top, so it was just to split the group and not to gain some points on top of the rooftop climb. And I think I managed because I think we lost about 20 to 25 riders on that climb, as you will notice when you look at the minimap. Once we were on top, I knew that the first part of the race was done, because now there was a long downhill followed by a flat part. So it was quite some kilometers until we arrived at the final sprint before the KOM. So I took that time to recover as much as possible, but yeah, the pace dropped. So let's fast forward to watch the third sprint of the day. So we arrived at the third sprint of the day, a very short one, 6 to 8 seconds. You can see at my graph, I had the time to recover. A lot of, a bit of gray, but some 2, 3. So I was feeling better. Here you can see that it was really going super hard, but I kept my feather to use it here, especially. Kept it like from, I don't know when we got it, I think in the first sprint or something. So, because I knew that after this sprint there was another climb, short one, to the village. So it already is going like 1 to 2% up here. So I try to move up and eventually doing exactly the same as I did on the rooftop climb, going to the front and start to pull towards the village and see what happened. So I arrived at the final stretch of the small climb, and I could see the graph, so it looked good. I saw all the gaps opening up. So I decided to hold a bit here, because it was not my purpose to go solo or anything, and I knew the com was also coming. So I let the first riders just behind me catch up. And then I noticed we were like only with about 20 left. So yeah, to go to the KOM with 20 instead of with 45 or 50 people was already a big advantage. Makes it easier to climb and to focus on riders. When we arrived at the climb, I started at the back of the first group with the FTS points in my mind. Then once the climb started, I moved up to the front, just trying to stay there. Riders will be dropped. The first part is still okay, but I knew once we go under the gate here that the second part will be a lot harder with steeper points. So the stretch will come into the group once again. I also saw all the power-ups being used, but I kept mine for the final, like 400 meters, because I knew I still needed it. You can also see a rider here passing us, another rider going with him. But I had a point where I knew that's going to be my moment. There I'm going to accelerate as much as I can. So I let them go, and actually the pace was still high in our group, so they Didn't went much further than 4 to 5 seconds, and I knew it was still. I was able to. I might be able to still take them at the top, which I did. This is the moment that I decided to go full gas to the top. In third position currently, my team member just in front of me, but I noticed the first guy onto the bridge, and I felt that the steamroller was still helping me. So I kept going, and as I was closing up, I knew I will eventually take him on the line. I was a little bit surprised on top when I noticed the scorings, and I saw that the guy who was second from the Dutch riders uh, did the climb 25 seconds faster. So that meant he came out of the second group on the bottom. He came to our group, he passed our group, and he was here still with me. But afterwards, when I checked the Zwift power, I saw him at like 6.5 watts a kilo values on the 5 minutes. So I knew he was just riding bad equipment. A bit of a bummer, of course, because I liked to have the first time. But yeah, points is points. So we went on. Once we were back in Nyokio, there was only one sprint left. Two riders were a bit in front of the group, but I still had the power to close the gap on those two and win the sprint. So I took the fastest across the line points, but eventually not the fastest through the segment, because some riders in the back saved their energy for that. I still scored, I think, seventh fastest time or sixth fastest time, I don't know anymore. So we're just like 2.5k from the finish. So after this, it was just finish left. With my final amount of grinta and power, I went for the final sprint at the finish line. One rider succeeded in riding away at the end. So another rider was still in front of the group too, but I catched him. So I was going for the second spot, but as you will notice, I backed off just a little too early, and I was nicked at the line. But luckily it was my teammate, so as for points, it didn't matter at all who was second, who was third. So we scored also a second place overall with the team. So thank you for listening and watching. Hope to spot you next time on Zwift. Ride on.